I'm David. I head up the Insight and Analytics team here at CleverTouch, and I've been working with CleverTouch for 7 years now, and I've got a background in mathematics and operational research is where I'm coming from. And with the team, we work to help our clients, so some of you guys, to clean and organise their contact databases as well as their kind of systems and the activity data that's sitting around that. So trying to organise everything that's going on from a data perspective inside the MA platforms. And then we use that to help inform the decision making for the marketing and building out some dashboards to support people in how they decide how they're moving forward. So over the next 10-15 minutes, I'm going to talk through a couple of examples of different dashboards to look at what kind of decisions they're driving, how exactly they're working so you can understand what you're seeing, and then what kind of issues there are in the back end that perhaps blocking what marketeers could be doing to make decisions, or showing how, if you clean up the data, you can make better decisions afterwards. So this is the first dashboard that we've got that Nick showed earlier, and this is actually looking at the kind of database health. So what we were trying to ask here is, we want to look at our marketing strategy and targeting strategy and understand who are we engaging with, are we engaging with the right people, and what are the issues in terms of our kind of targeting segmentation. So if we just talk very quickly, we're looking at the total number of people we've got in our database, and then actually how many of those did we have that were usable, how many have the information that we need to be able to contact people, they've not opted out, they've not hard bounced. And then beneath, we're looking at different key segmentation fields for us. So what MA platform do people have, which is an important metric for us, and then kind of other things, what job title, and we've standardized that into different levels and departments, what industries people are in, where are they in the funnel stage, all these things that we can look at. And then we can see for each of those kind of who has actually been communicating with and who hasn't. So we're seeing actually we've communicated with about half of the people that we potentially could. And then within those we can see who are those people. So you can see kind of the different job titles that we're targeting and who we haven't been targeting. And then so what this is doing is this is enabling us to then go ask the questions, is this correct? Are we hitting the right people? Do we want to change things up? But it's also enabling us to look at the fields and going, actually, are there issues with the data that are stopping us being able to do things? So some of the things that this enables us to highlight is that there's some standardization issues still going on. So you see you've got your MA platforms with some kind of junk entries at the bottom that need tidying up, not too much of an issue. But then if you look at like industries, we've got loads of different values. It's going to be very difficult for your marketeer to go, I want to look at finance, and you can pick out the finance, but there'll be other values that are going to make it harder to make sure we're hitting those people, not the and only people in the correct industries. And we're also seeing where we've got gaps in the data, so where we don't know what MA platform people have, what company size they are. Or, in fact, the other kind of gap that we can see is that we don't have a view of anyone outside of the UK, really. So if we want to start marketing in other areas, there is that gap. So this dashboard is more about understanding where the issues are. So there's not any kind of back-end issues in able to build this, but it kind of gives us that view. The next dashboard I want to look at is then something more of a funnel dashboard. Now this is for a perhaps smaller organisation than the Fujitsu's that we've been speaking about earlier, but this is looking at, from a marketing perspective, how is the sales kind of part of the funnel working. So what we want to understand is we want to see how many leads are being produced, and then what is the associated revenue coming from those leads. We want to know if those leads are of a good quality, and we want to know if sales are actually actioning and following those up, what are the results from those, and we want to be able to learn how to improve what's going on. So we want to be able to improve things. So what we're seeing is up the top you're looking at the kind of funnel stages for how we've defined the funnel here, starting at MQL going through to opportunities. And then we can see what are the conversion rates between those stages. So we're seeing where are people actually dropping off. So everyone's kind of getting through to sales, fine, but only half of the people are then being qualified. So sales are happy to have a look, but then when they take a look, perhaps don't like what they see so much, and then actually closing those to opportunities drops off more. And then when we drop down, we can look at from each month, for the MQLs generated for that month, where are they now? So how many of them have been converted into closed-won customers? How many of them are still in the sales process? And how many of them have been rejected for various reasons? And this will ideally show us like a closed won-lost ratio, but also show us where there's leads that sales haven't been following up on for perhaps a year. And then the final tool is looking at the funnel, those funnel values, but broken down by different segments. So here, where this is interactive, we were looking at lots of different segmentations. I put up job level because it's the tidiest. But this is enabling to see, okay, by the different people that we're providing, how are people actually performing? And this is interesting because there's an interesting kind of story coming out. So if you compare like managers and C-suite, just to see what's going on, we're getting a lot more manager leads coming through, C-suite, less leads coming through from there, and you see a progression. If we look at the rates, the first thing we see is that actually SEL to SQL, you get 65% on the C-suite. So you're getting, the sales are more happy to convert those people through the funnel because they're the decision-maker in the organisation, and the managers, they're getting converted less. And then if you follow that through, you see actual opportunity amounts coming through. The C-suite are representing quite a lot of opportunity value versus the managers. But then when you actually get to the end and you look at the opportunity won amounts, you see there's a big drop-off there. So what's happening, C-suite are being kind of progressed all the way through, but they're not actually generating more revenue at the end of the day than you're getting from the manager leads. So you can start to look at that and think, actually, probably I want to be providing more managers, maybe rather than the C-suite, because whilst they look good, they're not actually generating more than what we're getting from the manager leads, as an example of the type of things you could be looking at. And then finally, we're looking at the reasons that people are being dropped, so you can kind of understand why people are dropping out of that funnel. Now, some of the issues that these had, there's a couple of things to touch on. One is that sales weren't actually closing off the opportunities, at least from our knowledge of the organisation. That's what we think is happening. So those people that a year ago, they're probably not still in the sales cycle because this organisation, relatively shorter sales cycle, shouldn't be open for a year. So we're not getting that information from people that maybe they were good, maybe they were bad, probably bad, but we don't know for sure, so we can't act on that to understand, and that might change some of the results in other places. The other issues that we're having is that some of the reasons for being lost aren't standardised. So whether you're looking at non-standardised results, it's hard to actually draw out the stories from these to understand what really were the big issues. So making sure that those are getting standardised is important. And the other one was, I've shown the job level because that was the most standardised field they had, but the other, we could look at that by industry or company size, the other things, but those fields, too many different values, not standardised enough for us to be able to draw sensible conclusions from what's going on. So if you can get that data nice and tidy and organised, you can start to see more interesting things coming out of it and be able to do more analysis. So the next one I want to look at is a little bit of a more focused view, which actually might talk to some of the questions that have come up before. So this is a view for an event, so looking at how events have been performing, but specifically what we wanted to look at here was how are events impacting open opportunities? So how are events driving forward opportunities that are already in play? Are they actually doing that? We also wanted to see, is the data for events being tracked appropriately? So are we getting the data in for that? So quickly, what this is showing is we're looking at the number of people invited and the number of people that responded, which is attended in this case, how many opportunities they represent, and that is opportunities that were open whilst the event was ongoing, and then what was the revenue associated with those opportunities. So this is all for an event, and you'd be able to select whichever event that you've got. And then looking into the detail, we were seeing which were the sales owners that were inviting people, how many people did they invite, how many people were coming along, so you could see who are the salespeople that are actually bringing people along, who's the drivers there, and who potentially isn't or isn't getting the people to actually attend. And then we could see for those who were the accounts that they're actually managed to bring in and what was the revenue for those accounts. So what this was enabling people to do is actually say, okay, so we are getting revenue coming to these events, so that's making it worthwhile to run. Some of the issues was, so the first one was that actually getting the event attendance tracked was not happening in all cases. Different marketers are running an event, taking surveys, seeing those are coming, but actually getting it back into the system tracked against the correct record wasn't always happening. So this kind of drove that to get that in there. If you don't have that and we can't report on it, we can't see what's going on. The other issues that we had was actually getting the opportunities linked through to the contacts. So they were having an issue on the sales side where salespeople, they had to assign one person to the opportunity and that was it. So if you had multiple people on these opportunities, which should have been happening, they weren't being put in. So actually we were seeing that there's probably more opportunities coming, but we can't see them. So that was one of the issues that needs to be addressed to be able to start seeing these pictures properly. And the other issue was actually getting those opportunities in with the correct dates. There was a lot of kind of backdating of opportunities where we realised it was good and we put it in. And that meant that it's actually hard to understand, was that opportunity open when the event was going on? So you're kind of missing things that you probably were emphasising, but the data wasn't there to back it up. And then next I want to look at a dashboard, and this one is not kind of your final point of analysis, but it's important to note that sometimes you've got to go on a journey of understanding what's going on with the data and where things sit. And actually sometimes it's about educating yourself on what you have and how it's all building together. And if we just jump to kind of an end result, you might inform what's going on there. So what we're looking at here is revenue attribution to a certain extent. And one of the key things we're trying to do is understand both how sales and marketing activity comes together to influence opportunities. So trying to track both of those things against each other, because everyone's having an impact on whether or not the opportunities are closing. And we want to know what the kind of split there is. So talk you through what's going on here. In the top, we've got the total revenue for the last couple of years. And then beneath that, we're seeing attribution. At this point, we're just attributing by influence. So if it touched, you get the revenue rather than kind of doing a split. So it's not a sophisticated model at this point. It's just seeing, is that marketing activity touching things? And we're seeing for your MA activity and for your sales activity, most opportunities are getting touched by some of that activity. Then if we go down, we're looking at, okay, let's break out that activity by types to see which types are touching different activities. And so as we'd expect, your email opens, email clicks, someone related to an opportunity is engaging with email communications. But we get interesting things when you start looking at video or and you're seeing that, okay, actually half of our opportunities have watched a video, over 75%. Why is it not more, or is that kind of above expectation for what we're looking at for videos? Similarly, webinars, most people are registering for webinars, but not many people are actually attending or watching them. And then on the right, the bottom right, we were looking at for each opportunity is kind of a little row. What's the spread of sales to marketing activity? So sales being orange, marketing activity being blue. You're seeing that, okay, so about 10% are kind of sales only. There's not any marketing activity that we're tracking against those opportunities. But for the other 90%, we quickly see there's loads of marketing activity and very little sales activity. Now, we haven't weighted sales higher than marketing. Some of them might have more impact than others. But that's kind of giving you the picture of where things stand. And then the top piece is just understanding what data we actually have that we're looking at. So understanding the dashboard a little bit more. Now, there's quite a lot of data work behind the scenes to get to them to this point, and there's more to take forward afterwards. But some of the challenges were trying to pull together those activity to the contacts and the opportunities. And again, opportunity to contact role wasn't really being used effectively. And also when you get to Pardot, sometimes you've got people that are in Pardot that aren't in Salesforce at all, but you want to attribute that activity back to the contact. So what we were doing here is we were going through account, so opportunity onto account, and then from the account looking at email domains for those accounts, and then finding the people in Pardot that had the same matching domains to try bring those in. Because even matching on account name is not always effective. If you're not standardizing account names coming in, that can cause problems. Then one of the other things that we had an issue with was they had multiple different business areas all within the platform. And clients would have opportunities in multiple business areas, and marketing would be marketing to them. And then wanted to make sure that you're only linking up the activities to the opportunities that make sense for the same business area. Marketing to a business area isn't going to impact that point. So for that, there's a big task in tagging and marking up all the different marketing activities within the MA platform to make sure you understand which business area was running that. And that becomes important and quite difficult where you've got activity that's coming from different places. So some of it's tracked automatically by the MA platform, some of it, like events and webinars, you've got different plugins coming in, and then you've also got the sales activity that also needs to be tracked, and that's on the Salesforce side. So making sure that's all organised is important. And then the last one I wanted to look at was a more of an account-focused dashboard. So wanting to see how different accounts are being influenced by marketing activity. We want to see who are the most engaged accounts, and then who within those are actually engaging with the marketing that's going on. And we want to see how kind of the timing of sends is impacting opportunity changes. So what we're seeing here on the left is a list of all your key accounts, and then the summary of kind of how those have engaged with your marketing, along with what kind of opportunities they have currently open or have been won or lost relating to the campaigns. And then selecting one of those, we can see which contacts are linked to that account, and then what's their engagement. And we can also see kind of a timeline of what they've been doing. And then at the bottom, we've got the opportunities relating to those accounts, to give you a view of, okay, the activity of the person, and then when were the opportunity stages changing. Again, the issues here is often around making sure we're getting all the data in and we're getting it in accurately, and making sure, so here, a key one is making sure the opportunity stage changes are at the correct times, because without that we can't see whether certain marketing activity influence moving an opportunity on. If that opportunity moved on but it wasn't recorded for a month, you lose that piece of information. And the other key one here is making sure that your marketing activity is tagged and named and understood correctly, so that when you're looking at a timeline or you're looking at what's going on, you're understanding what that marketing activity actually was talking about. And so maybe your salesperson who is reviewing can quickly understand what that person was looking at and seeing to then understand what then was going on, and how that might have then impacted the opportunity. So just to kind of close up, so the issues that we're looking at there is not just the contact standardization. That is very important, getting the fields kind of populated and standardized, but there's also issues around making sure your kind of sales opportunities and management is in place, and that data is tracked and recorded at the correct times. And there's also the making sure your activity is tagged and recorded and tracked appropriately, so you know which campaign's activity was part of, what kind of strategy it was implementing, what product it was talking about. And then if you can bring all that together, that's when you can really start to produce the kind of reporting and answer the questions that enable you to do better marketing. So that's me. Please do ask any questions or come chat to me afterwards.
Thank you very much, David.